Hello, dearest beautiful souls of love and light. This is Lady Nanari, Princess of the Sea, coming to you with a new video. So if you notice, I'm actually on audio instead of video. And if you pardon my voice, it's still not the greatest. I woke up this morning with absolutely no voice. So between using the herbal oils and things that I've been doing herbally, my voice and some healing work that my twin soul did with me last evening, my voice is getting better. So please bear with me as you listen to this, knowing that. But I felt compelled to record this because I wish to share something with all of you upon the sacred path of sacred union, in terms of twin soul union, in terms of all relationships, unions, connections. And this is particularly for the divine feminine, however, it's for everyone in the sense of, I would like to invite you to look deeply at the ways in which the divine masculine loves you, divine feminine, and vice versa. The ways in which the divine feminine loves you, divine masculine, that may be free from being quote-unquote normal. Not that there's anything such as normal anyhow. You ask 15,000 people what normal is, you're going to get 15,000 different answers. And normal, as a friend of mine lovingly says at home in Canada, is just a setting on a washing machine. So that said, I've never been normal a day in my life in this earth, in this life, nor has my twin soul, and neither one of us wish to be. From the beginning of our union in coming together, we've never done things the way normal people do, in terms of individually and then us in union. Twin souls, as a rule, always kind of have their own language and their own way of communicating that nobody else but the twin souls really get. And yet, something can be said for the fact that in all relationships or unions, connections, there is this, if you are able to listen and look deeper. Now, I've been saying for quite a few years that our connection is a union. And the reason that it's a union is because relationship, as I've written about, channeled about, done videos on, and many things over the years, is where you have two separate people, two separate entities, two separate things relating to each other. So 10 years ago now, when we first came up with the one soul relationships, that's why it was REAL, real relationship. And so what that really meant and means is union. It's where you collapse the fact that you have a relationship or two separate beings relating into union, into oneness, to where you don't know where one begins and the other ends, and vice versa. You just are. You're just in this union, you're just in this oneness together. And so I wanted to share with you some things regarding this, because if any of you have ever seen the film, it's called What Dreams May Come. And it's the best film that I have seen thus far that gives the best interpretation of what it means to be on the other side of the veil, for one thing. But what it also does is it gives the best representation of twin souls and the capability of our love to go beyond, and union connections to go beyond the time, space, distance continuum into multidimensional consciousness. In the film, he is told that he may not even be able to reach her, and even if he does, that he cannot bring her back from hell. About the only thing I don't agree with in the representation is the whole dichotomy of polarity. that they speak about of the whole heaven and hell concept. But what they're really talking about in the film is the definition of the dimension of hell, or this parallel dimension in which you have yet to process the feelings and the thoughts and the emotions and things of that nature to transform into the other side of the veil, to be with Source, because none of that's on the other side. But in this film, he is told, Robin Williams, is told that he will probably not be able to reach his wife, and even if he does, he won't be able to bring her back from hell. And what does he say? He says something along the lines of, "Watch me, you don't know us." And it's very profound because, again, this goes to twin soul union or any heart connection, soul connection, deep union that you have with someone. And it doesn't matter, if it's divine feminine, divine masculine, if it's two divine masculine, two divine feminine. But when you're in this union, you're able to reach beyond time, space, distance, into the multi-dimensions. And so I wanted to share with you some things regarding this, because of things that have just happened. Now, most of you who have been with me for years know about this. Some of you who are new do not. But this time, 2 years ago almost, on Valentine's Day, it'll be the 2-year anniversary of a death that I had, in which I literally died and came back. Now, I've had 12 near-death experiences, or 12 deaths in this life, and come back. And my twin soul has been an integral part of quite a few of them since 2005, before we even connected physically. And so, really, it's about reaching beyond that, and it's about that film in which he says, "Watch me, you don't know us." From the beginning, pretty much almost all of the 10 years that we have been together, my twin soul and I, we have this way of communicating, and my twin soul Chris has this way of communicating with me that is different than just saying things like straight up, "I love you." He shows his love in different ways. Like, for instance, he'll like a video on YouTube to tell me how he feels. More recently, in the last, probably 6 months to a year now, and a time, maybe longer, and a time he is playing at a gig that he plays every Wednesday evening. I will say, "Can you play a song so that I feel you and I can hear you as you are playing?" And he'll text me in the name of the song. And usually the name of the song that he texts me is something having to do with us. Being where I live now in Scotland, as I was travelling the UK, Scarborough Fair is a song that's near and dear to our hearts for various reasons. His version of Water is Wide that he wrote for me specifically. These kinds of songs. Most recently, last week, it was Blue Skies, his way of telling me he's in love with me. Things of that nature. He'll like a video on YouTube. He'll do a video on Facebook or on YouTube of himself, and he'll say, "I love you" in it. And he's saying "I love you" to everyone in the video, that he's sending it to. Specifically, it's to me, especially since not as many people watch his videos. He will do that. And there's various reasons why he does. One of the biggest is because he doesn't do things the way, quote unquote, normal man would. And it's something that I've always loved about him and honor and cherish and deeply appreciate. And so he'll always do this, and he'll always do this in roundabout ways of saying something to me without saying something to me. It's the said within the unsaid, And just like the musician that he is, it's the silence between the notes that makes the music. And he knows that I know him, as he has said. I know him better than he knows him, and that I see through the masks, that I see through him, and I see to who he really is, the heart and soul he is. And so I share this with you because I invite each one of you to look at your relationships, whether they're an earthly relationship, a twin soul union, a heart-soul connection, a union of some sort, and to understand, first of all, the difference between relationship and union, as I just shared, but also to see the different ways in which the ones we love are loving us, but maybe it's different from the way we expect or the way we think we should be loved, Especially as Divine Feminine, we have this expectation that our Divine Masculine is supposed to say things and do things and love us the right way or a certain way, and then we get angry or lash out or feel abandoned or feel rejected if they don't live up to our expectations. So I'm inviting you to let go of those expectations and to open yourself to see the ways that he does love you. For the Divine Masculine, the same way. Maybe your Divine Feminine is a bit shy, like my twin soul, and maybe, has a different way of expressing how she feels. For me, I'm more straight up, I'll just tell him straight up I love him. And I know he loves that about me. And he also loves the fact that, I hear the message behind the message of his heart. And so last evening, I've been in and out of fever the last few days with this blessed bug that's been going around that I ended up coming ill with. And so I knew song has been coming through. And anytime song comes through, I'm always there. Vibrationally, energetically, physically, I'll be texting and whatnot. And the night before, although I was delirious with fever, he had channeled through this wee bit as song was coming through him, and he had texted me this beautiful prose, if you will, writing. And then I wrote in response after he had already gone to bed. And it may turn into a poem that we do together, who knows at this point. I invited him to do such with me if he wishes. But in the interim, what came about while I was, I was feeling song come through him, as I always do. And so I'm usually up. And even though we have an 8-hour time difference, I had messaged him and said, I'm feeling kind of feverish right now. I took some medicines and I'm going to go to sleep, but I'm going to set my alarm for like 6-7 hours from now. So I'll be up when you're still up, so that if song's coming through and, it finishes, I'll be there, for you and with you. And he had texted me back saying that he was going to be in the park until way after dark, and that song wouldn't be finished today. Now, when you were to read that, anybody else would have taken it at face value and just said, okay, right, he's going to be in the park, until way after dark, and that song won't be finished. And or B, thinking that, the man was blowing me off and just saying, sod you, and not validating me. Yet I know him. And I know his heart. And I was able to hear his heart and the message behind the message. And he's not one to turn around and just point blank say, hey, baby, maybe you need some rest. And, why don't you go to get some sleep? And, song will wait. And, it'll be finished when it's finished. And you and I both know that the song is, going to come through tonight. But you need your rest. So get some sleep. He's not one to say that, straight up that way. So when he texted me that, I knew that that's what he was trying to say. I knew how chivalrous he is being and the amazing man he is to say that to me in what he said. So instead of jumping to conclusions, freaking out, feeling abandoned, feeling like he was blowing me off, feeling this, feeling that, I listened with my heart and listened to his heart and listened with the heart of the master artist. And so I texted him. I tried to fall asleep for about an hour, but the fever was keeping me awake and whatnot. And so I texted him, I think maybe about an hour later, and I thanked him. And I said to him, you know, I know that you said that because you wanted me to get some rest. And I thank you for that. Thank you for thinking of me and putting me and my health as a priority in protecting me. I appreciate it so deeply, and it means a lot to me, and I'm going to try to get some sleep now. Because you see, he took it upon himself to care more about me and my health, and to make that a priority, even above himself and above the song, because he knew I needed rest. He took me as part of him, just as I take him as part of me. And that's what I mean about that collapse of relationship that I've spoken about for years. That oneness, that union that you feel. Because you see, he knows me so well too. Just like I know him, he knows me. And he knows that since I was a wee lass, that because of the heart condition that I was born with, and because of all the doctors, conventional medicine telling me that I have these terminal illnesses, that I can only do so much. And since I was a wee lass, I've been told I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't run. I always had a doctor's note saying that I couldn't run because of my heart condition, and I couldn't do this, I can't do that, can't do this. And so part of me in that rebelliousness is going, you know what, watch me, I'm going to do it. And then a lot of times I overdo it and go beyond my physical limitations, and it causes me to get ill. And the combination of that, not getting enough sleep, overextending myself, and eating foods that were not very healthy for me, is, I know, what contributed in part to me getting ill. Now, this bug has been going around anyways, but my immune system is not the greatest from an earthly perspective because of my death 2 years ago, and never has been anyways, due to everything. And so part of my soul path is to have these things so that I can transform them and show others how to heal as well. And so I know that from a soul perspective, and I know that vibrant health is my natural state. And that's why I've been writing that on my posts on Facebook and whatnot. However, Chris knew me and knew me well enough to know that I was pushing myself, and that I needed the rest. Because I did so, quite a few years ago. It was the summer of 2011 when I was living there at home in Vernon, when I was covering a music festival of a mutual friend of ours for another mutual friend of ours, his music magazine. And so I was up Silverstone Mountain, and Chris actually got a gig up there later in the evening just so he could see me. And he jokingly texted me and deliberately said, don't come to this gig, because he knew that there was this smoking hot blues man who was going to be there. And he said that purposefully because he knew I would show up, and he wanted me to show up there. And so I did. But that evening he had gotten pissed drunk, and so he was incapable, being inebriated, to take down the equipment from the evening, and obviously to drive home. So I had driven him home after we kind of made out that evening. But I did, and took his car back to my place, and then brought his car back to his place in the morning and took him to his gig in the morning. And since he was still hungover, I went and set up the equipment and did all of this and took it down and everything for him. And so it got me ill because I overdid it. And so when he did that, or when I did that and I got ill, I went out of remission. And several days later, being so ill, he came round and brought me cabbage rolls from a beautiful country garden place that he used to play at, the gig that I took him to actually that day. And he took care of me, and he was there for me. And so he knows my physical limitations, and he knows that I needed my rest. So instead of saying, yeah, I'll see you in a few hours, he took it upon himself to say, now hold on a minute, without saying it straight up. But what he texted me was his way of saying that. So this is why I tell you this, to invite you to look at some of the things that maybe your divine masculine man is saying to you, and instead of reacting in fight, flight, freeze mode and freaking out, to actually listen to his heart and listen to your heart as one with Source's heart, to know that maybe what he's saying is not really what he's saying. Hear the message behind the message. And then I went to sleep, and it was like 5 hours later or whatnot, when I woke up, but I woke up with my fever broke, and I had this most amazing experience, and I knew it was true, and I knew it was real, and because this isn't the first time that he has done this. Many times, 2 years ago when I went through the death, he brought me back from death, literally. And if any of you have been with me, you know about this. If not, go back through. I invite you to go back through my videos here on Facebook and on YouTube, and go listen to what happened, how he brought me back from death 2 years ago. And it's not the first time he's done this, and the power of our love. And that's why I said before, it reminds me of What Dreams May Come. Robin Williams had that determination, and I find it ironic that film, his name is Chris in the film. My twin soul's name's Chris, and his wife in that film is named Annie. Well, my middle name is Anne. So in this life, so the connection being there, I knew this was real, just like when he brought me back from death 2 years ago, and several times others that he has done in 2005 when I had my death then. The chivalrousness that he was, the night that my ex-husband came and forced himself on me physically, sexually assaulted me, and he was there telepathically, energetically, and he rang me up, and I was able to get off my ex-husband that evening and run to hide and lock myself into a wardrobe closet and be able to talk with him on the phone. He saved me from that. Many things, that's happened. And so I had this, what I thought was a dream, but as we all know, in soul, our body rests and our soul travels. So it was no dream, and even though I was delirious with fever, I knew it was real. Nonetheless, we were in different dimensions, and we weren't in our physical bodies that we're in now, and we were kind of like half ethereal, half not, half Orion or Lyrian being, and half human, but we were younger, and probably like in our 20s. And then we hopped into this dimension that was like a mix of a parallel dimension between home here in Scotland and home there in Vernon, and because the topography is very similar, the nature is very similar. And he had me in his arms, Chris did, and he laid me down, and he then began touching me. But at first he wasn't touching me, and it wasn't a sexual touch, it was a healing touch. I could see his hands, and I've always said to him that even when we've been physically together over the last 10 years, his touch, his hands were the healing salve to my soul, and I for him, and there's been many times when I've done this for him as he's done for me, reaching across the time-space, multidimensional dimensions to reach him as much as he has reached me. And, the song Something in the Way She Moves by James Taylor, who Chris used to play with James Taylor back in the 80s, late 70s and 80s. The lyrics of that song, the whole song is about us, really. In that sense, it's very much the two of us. But, when he says every now and then the things I lean on lose their meaning, and I find myself careening in places where I should not let me go. She has the power to go where nowhere else can find me, where no one else can find me, and to silently remind me of the happiness and the good times that I know. And it isn't what she has to say, it's just, my voice. The words calm him. My voice is that sweet salve to him of healing. And interestingly, being that he is Steve the walk-in, of Steve, Steve used to say that to me when he was alive. He used to say, how much he loved my voice, the sound of my voice, and I would often sing to Steve. And so I know that's Steve coming through him in that sense. But he reached in with his hands and he caressed me. And then he kissed me so passionately, and reminded me of a time that he did something similar about 7 years ago. He had a cataract, Chris did, and the day that he had it removed, he was still high on the stuff that they gave him. But I came round to visit him at his place, and I brought him some roses, some beautiful roses, and a healing rock that I made for him. And I wrote this beautiful prose about what each part of the healing rock that I created for him has, and I believe he still has it, and what it represented. And that day, even though he was still high off the stuff, he dipped me to the floor and kissed me so passionately that I nearly fell on the floor. So it was like that kiss. And then he just smiled, and I smiled at him. Our eyes were locked in this beautiful soul gaze of such healing. And then he just continued to touch me, and this time he was physically touching me, but touching me all over my body with that healing light from the healing salve of his hands. And it was so real, as if he was right here, right now with me, just like 2 years ago when he brought me back from death. And just like, in what dreams may come, he reached me. I have a way of reaching him in a way that no one else can, and vice versa. He has a way of reaching me that no one else can. And so then I woke up, and I, had my fever broken, and I text messaged him, and I said, are you doing some sort of a flow dance or something in the park right now? Because I woke up with my fever broke, and I was delirious with fever, but I had this amazing experience, and I know it was very real. And I said I was going back to sleep, so I did go back to sleep. And when I awoke, of course, what was waiting for me in my inbox? The beautiful new song called Open Arms, Open Heart, which I'm sure he'll be doing a video I've seen, and it's just absolutely gorgeous and made me cry. The intonations are very similar to a song that he wrote for me, Princess Upon the Shore, of my song. And he said that he hoped I was feeling better and that I had a good rest. I woke up having no voice, and yet subsequently throughout the day it is healed, and I know it's because of his healing love, his healing salve, of his healing hands, and reaching across that time-space continuum. And I really wanted to share this with you because I felt that it was so important for those who are in union to really take a look at when, in the moments when you're ill, in the moments when you just can't take it anymore, in the moments of jubilation, in the moments of pure bliss, the moments of fear, of joy, of sadness, all of it, your twin soul, the one you're in union with, the one that you're maybe in an earthly relationship, a soulmate, a heart-centered connection is there and is loving you, and maybe in a different way that you never thought of. And maybe this will help open things up for you with real eyes, to have a realization, to know that the love is always there. It's forever, it's infinite, it's pure, and appreciate that. Appreciate every moment and embrace that and treasure it and appreciate each other for the ways in which you love each other that may not be quote-unquote normal. And see the power of your love beyond the time, space, and distance. I know a lot of twin souls that I mentor are apart from their twin souls for one reason or another. Physical geography, as I am with mine. Some of it has other reasons. But yet, your twin soul is always with you. Even though in physical, you yearn for them, and that's okay too. And the physical will happen as it's meant to. Just as I know my twin soul Chris is coming here to see me and to be with me. And I know that even still, he's here. I love you all. And in a few days, I'll be completely well again. The body is weak at the moment, but my soul is flying. And thank you, all of you, for your healing prayers and love. It means a lot to me. Respava.